Yeah, no, well, okay. That's where you're there as well. Are you? Okay. Our funding partners in Hanover as well. Yeah. Yeah, we should. Yeah. Be more fun. Rather than getting a lecture.
You guys been growing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're that's very transparent. I mean, I think we're on track for 25 million per first year, which is decent. But we're
growing throughout the year.
Oh yeah, I mean this quarter will be somewhere between 10 and 12, so it's a really solid quarter. Yeah, I think next year, we're targeting 50 to 60. Which just means we have to do quite a lot of volume.
Well, I haven't mentioned your name a couple of times. Literally was like,
yeah, of course.
Now I can talk about, oh yeah, we'll everyone knows what you do, which is
that's very good.
especially for about 200 plus business.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean we've done about 60 now, so the last 6 months especially has just taken off. We've grown the team. Now we've got our in-house lawyer helping as well. That's nice. And then Harry's going to transform the business.
Yes.
AI side.
Yeah.
It's all down to you.
Of course, yeah. Should we?
Pressure.
Yeah. Should we wait for Hayden to come back and then we can make a bit of a start? Yeah.
Should I call him?
Yeah. I think he mentioned going to get equipment. He didn't realise I'd got a tripod and a mic already. So yeah.
Yeah, I also had a call with a couple of guys who he's actually the contractor by background. Okay. And then they're trying to do some smaller deals and stuff. And I said, there's all, lenders or big with us, like quick loans. I said, we should pay them down themselves. It's not flex lending. Well, there we are. Not needed to.
Yeah. Feel free to have some mince pies as well. Yeah.
Hello, mate. Yeah. Hello. You're coming down now. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Yeah. Cheers, guys. I'm gonna get a elderflower press.
Cheers. Oh yeah, absolutely. Where are you? How'd you find that?
Hi.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Harry.
How you doing, Harry?
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Michael? Rishi.
Yeah, take a seat, grab a mince pie. Yeah.
Or soft. Soft. What would you like? Water.
Yep.
Okay, sure. Well, just a little bit of an intro. Thank you all for coming. I think I mentioned to some of you we're working with Harry. He's a close friend of mine actually. We've known him for a few years. Actually met him in Bali a couple of years ago on the tech scene in Bali, which was quite
very interesting for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And you'll leave that for another day. And but Harry has been working with Flex and he's streamlining our systems. So Harry's an AI specialist. I mean, he's quite humble, but he's very good at what he does. So I mean, he's worked with Visa, OpenAI, obviously ChatGPT, and he's come into Flex and he's helped streamline or he's working to streamline our capabilities as a lender. And Harry will go into that. But last week he mentioned that there might be some crossover for brokers. What is there about the session that what he's implementing with us that could potentially be helpful to other brokers? So yeah, just super informal. He's going to run through a few things that we're doing, and then we'll do a bit of a Q&A afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as Hayden mentioned, I guess we just thought like if these guys can close deals faster, and then obviously if you guys can close deals faster as well, then it's like mutually beneficial to be able to get things kind of through the pipeline. And I think one of the big things with AI and definitely with Flex is the ability to actually just kind of like move the machine a lot faster, because you can have a lot of the sort of admin taken care of. And what that means is it opens up capacity for more deals, which is what you guys really want to achieve. And I think that's really the way forward to getting to your targets for next year, is really looking very systematically at the systems and how do we kind of optimize them. So yeah, I thought I'd go through some of the solutions that we're working with Flex on, and also some other companies that we've worked with. We've also got a little bit of a demo as well to actually show you something. We've got a sort of a deal broker analyzer, which I thought would be really useful for you. So it can actually look at a deal and analyze it, and then actually send some terms straight off the bat. So yeah, let's have a bit of a walkthrough of some solutions. So we've got, I guess, what we're doing with Flex, with their transformation. I guess one of the first things that I've kind of noticed with them. Let me just bring you up these use cases with Flex. One thing that we've noticed is obviously a lot of what they are doing is actually manually inputting quite a lot of data. So to actually move the machinery and to move a deal through the pipeline, we've got like updating an Excel tracker. Arnav, their poor paralegal, is often stuck actually like copying and pasting stuff between Word documents, and obviously using ChatGPT to assist him, but it's really not the most efficient process. And what you really want is for Arnav to be able to have a lot of that admin taken care of, so he's just looking over it and checking that it's actually legally sound, and then that frees him up to be able to do more high-level tasks with the rest of the business, which is really what we want. So one solution that we found that we're going to be building out is actually a form that can be filled in. So whenever a new deal comes in, it can literally track out all the legal documents and create first drafts of them. It can save the right templates in the right folder. If there are some documents that are associated with that deal, which obviously happens a lot, we're talking a lot about the inquiry process as well, and how we can move that faster through the pipeline, then all of those can essentially be logged in the right places at the right time. And it can also notify when docs are actually missing. And so stuff like this is really where I think the value is in AI, and especially when we're in these industries where obviously compliance is really important and getting those documents is really important. It's like, how do we create a system so we're not removing humans from the system, but we're creating these first drafts and we're creating these systems which really get us to that endpoint a lot faster. Yeah, please, yeah.
So just like that perspective, that might be useful for your guys' business, I'm not sure, is so right now, we've got team members having to manually fill in quite a lot of forms throughout the whole process. So basically, what Harry's got us now working with or implementing is just a one internal form that we fill in once, and then that fills out hosts of documents. I don't know how much documents that would be, Dan, but hundreds of pages, is it?
Oh, combined, yeah.
It just streamlines everything already, and then it automates emails as well. So yeah, it takes sort of 5 minutes to fill in a form, as opposed to right now what's happening is everyone's copying and pasting throughout the whole transaction. So, sorry,
yeah, no worries. Yeah, thank you. So that's the first thing I think that's going to really provide a lot of value and help Dan and Hayden get to sort of where they want to go. The second thing that we're doing is we've got a deal analyzer. So we're going to do a little bit of a demo of this in a minute. So at the moment, what's happening is when a new deal comes in, we've got some loan admin assistants, and they are manually looking at the deal, working out the numbers, and then they're drafting the messages. Obviously, they have templates to send it back. So all of the normal admin work that they're doing further down the pipeline, they're having to stop what they're doing, then go to the new deal that's come in. And so where we want to get to is like speed to lead is obviously so important when you're dealing with deals. So we built a bot that can decide if the deal is the right fit. It ingests the numbers, and then it actually can follow up and ask for more details if there is an issue. And then what it will do is it will actually send those terms and all the numbers over in a PDF for approval or checking. So we still keep a human in the loop. So let's have a little bit of a play with it. So I have got a video recorded. If for some reason it doesn't work and it's temperamental, but so we have built it out on we built it out first of all on Telegram, and the reason we put it into Telegram is it's a bit easier to build with Telegram. Obviously, as we build it out, we're going to integrate it into WhatsApp, which is the main platform in the UK that everybody uses. So I'll just bring up Telegram, and the way that it works is that it is kind of like a bot that can sit in a group chat. So you can invite anyone into this chat, or you can chat with it individually, and we can give it some details of a deal. So we can say, okay, I'm Harry Verity. Maybe I want to put a play on Buckingham Palace in SW1 in London. So I wonder how much this is worth. Maybe, say loan amount, let's say 20 million. We'll put it in numbers. GBP. Maybe Buckingham Palace is worth a bit more than 20 million, maybe. Yeah. And then we're going to say loan is 20 million. And then of that, we'll say, well, maybe Flex are going to put up like 10 million of that 20 million. So they've got 10 million in bank to put towards this deal, or maybe someone else is giving them 10 million. Yeah. Loan value. And then the loan amount would be 10 million. And then we'll say that this is residential, which is important because you guys don't deal with commercial properties. Just analyzing the deal, and then you can see it said thank you for sending this over. It's immediately realized that this is a deal that they could punt on. So it's given us some terms, and then we'll open this. So you can see it's worked out the LTV, it's got the interest rate, and they said these are the fees and deductions that would be for Flex. And so if we change this and we say, okay, but what about if we change this deal and we say that this is commercial, it should come back and tell us, we'll reset it first, that this is not a deal that we can do. Yes, thank you for sending this over. Unfortunately, we're unable to proceed with this. And then it's asking you a follow-up question. It says, well, is there any security that could actually be used here against this?
Is it residential or commercial?
Oh, Buckingham Palace. That's an interesting question. Yeah. Excuse, yeah. So yeah, as you can see, like I think like the value for mortgage brokers is obviously when you have deals coming in, although it can do a very basic analysis, and we can just add logic to it, and we can keep building on this, which is really exciting and really cool. So as the deals become more complex, we can just add that logic into the bot and refine it as edge cases come up. And like I said, obviously we'll be putting this into WhatsApp as we go along. Telegram's just a little bit easier to build on to get an MVP off the ground. Yeah.
You could get to the point where, I think at the moment there's probably instant loan calculators, I imagine, from certain lenders that you work with. But the idea is if we had, when you might sort of send terms over to me on WhatsApp, that a lot of the analysis would be done, quite quickly. So you're getting instant instant terms, basically. So I don't know whether there's any use cases for you guys where you do much WhatsApp chats with borrowers. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity in that space. We're probably finding ourselves more so now than ever moving towards WhatsApp chats with clients. And I mean, it might just be because of the dynamic of business. We're being pulled a lot into the GCC, into the Middle East and things like that. So a lot of our clients are WhatsApping us outside of hours or whatever. But it'd be interesting because, well, I mean, look, from a single product aspect, I think that works quite well. But then where the logic, I'm not sure if this is something that can be overcome. How do you plug that in when we deal with 205 different banks? So we're trying to understand how do you scale that into a model that the client says to us, this is what we want, and then how much data do we need to have in the background for that to feed back to the client?
Yeah, I mean, there's really no wall on the data that you could give it. So obviously, it would be a more complex task to build it out for you guys, but you would really just give it all the data of all the different banks and the logic to give it and do sort of edge cases with it. So it would be more challenging for sure, but I think that it would be possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every job's not going to get anything done.
Yeah.
Most 9 times out of 10, you can kind of narrow a deal down to 2 dozen lenders, for
Yeah.
example, or there's a smaller lender pool, like we know who we're going to go to for certain
Yeah.
deals, commercial, residential, or semi-commercial, for example.
Yeah.
We use WhatsApp quite a lot for gaining information. So we'll have not enough information for the client, so we might have the address but not the loan amount or the value.
Yeah.
But you could use that logic then to build in, and if the loan amount that they currently have against the property is too high, it's already 80% LTV, like sorry, you can't offer.
Yeah.
Or something like that, I guess, right?
Amazing. Yeah, exactly. Like this will chase you, even in this MVP. It will chase you if you haven't quite given all the details. It will say, "I still need this detail from you." So yeah, it can do. Yeah.
This is just your own unique bot that you might roll out to brokers. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
So it's specific to that?
Yeah, it would be internally. Yeah, absolutely.
The software though, you've got
Yeah.
software, so you write these, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the point is it's like custom. So we could build this for any business. Yeah.
So we can get terms from you like that.
Yeah.
Just within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Get terms from Flex.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, ideally, we'd like to get to the point where you don't even have to involve us. You can sort of quite.
Yeah.
Someone like Lendiness, you key on their portal and you can get heads of terms back within minutes. So it's there.
Yeah.
But this via WhatsApp, which is the differential. Really.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether the use case would be like for you guys are specific in. I don't know maybe if you got it if you received it, and then I mean even imagine it you were getting questions, it was answering the questions, you almost created a report. I would imagine that it could then automatically assess like which lenders might be suitable and then send it out to the lenders.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah.
With this one, obviously, you can't do any AVMs or anything like that.
Automatic valuations,
Go straight in. AVM pass.
We'd love to get to that point at some point. That'd be brilliant.
It's feasible. It's just not with us right now. But with a different lender who could do it at the end.
But then, I mean, this could be a project. Plug it into an AVM model.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's a really good point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then because then you're getting the insight.
Yeah.
So could you then plug into that registrator then pull the relevant information from there as well?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's on the internet and in a passable format, then yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it can very easily pull land registry data, I think. Yeah. So.
How do you pull land registry data at the moment?
Yeah, literally just going on to the land registry.
Yeah. So.
We're quite inefficient.
Yeah.
There is another company that I run into, and it's more on the insurance side where they're promoting for kind of like a desktop valuation immediately. So it's like instantaneous. I don't know whether that might fit into this on like a more standardized product. I'll find the details of it because that could, I don't know, help you kind of validate that to begin with to go, right, well, this is tagging up with what they're saying in terms of just the client going, oh, well, I think the site's or the value of the asset's worth X amount, and your loan to value is lower, and then it's still hitting your triggers in terms of going, oh, well, this is within our parameters, and then I guess you're then still having to manually check towards the end of going, right, well, now let's crack on and have a conversation with our valuers, that sort of stuff.
It's a good point actually, because even though we can't do ABMs, we could connect it with an ABM software just to sense check the value in advance.
Yeah, because we do lots of work and we deal just all over our valuation.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to client's word.
Yeah, had that recently.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point actually, and that's something that we are thinking about a lot. So we've also worked with an events management company in Dubai, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, which was a form population solution. So these guys, if you imagine you're an events management company, they deal with like 10 new business inquiries every day, and not all of them are necessarily going to close, are going to generate revenue for them, but they have team members who are literally spending 20-30 minutes putting data in monday.com, creating quotes on Zero. They were adding a job advert on a recruitment software. They had an Excel tracker. So what we did is we created one form for them again, and then they filled this in, and then it went away and sort of populated everything. It created dogs. It went into their software and made a job for them. And I think that's the value of that, is it's reducing the time that was being spent on things that weren't necessarily sort of generating value, but needed to be done. Like they needed to keep track of anyone that was really looking for, that had reached out to them and said they might want to run an event, because they needed to plan that. And I guess for you guys with brokerage deals as well, that's kind of where we want to get to as well with Flex, to a point where like there's not really that much time being spent on things that might fall through. Obviously customer service is really important and you can jump in there when you need to, but you have like that kind of that wall there to make sure that any deals that are definitely aren't suited are sort of being filtered out, and there's no admin time there at all being spent on them. Yeah.
So when you work for the events management company, would it then automatically pull data from Monday? Or it would take the data and it would implement stuff into the CRM, or would create a quote on Zero?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah. So this is all things that they were doing sort of manually, and it was really hemorrhaging and preventing them from they were basically at capacity with this, and it was really stopping them from being able to actually get more clients, because if they had 10 inquiries in one day, then every time they had to stop what they were doing, a bit like your kind of loan assistants, stop what they're doing, pause it, then go in and manually actually have to create the quote on Zero, update the massive Excel spreadsheet that they had, go into monday.com in the right board and create the right the right job. So there was really a lot of steps involved in it, perhaps 5 or 6 steps in different tools. And what I think is really cool with AI and automations is that you are reducing that need to spend on admin time, but you're unlocking capacity in the process of doing that, and you're taking away that kind of repetitive element to it. And then what that frees that up is like more relationships can be built and more deals can be closed in person or over the phone. Yeah, I'll just sum up then, I guess, and talk a little bit about what these kind of things could mean for you. So more capacity, a better service, we hope, is the vision, and then more revenue. So closing more deals, higher client satisfaction, because you've got the time to be able to actually to speak with more people, and referrals will increase when you do that. It's kind of like a snowball. And just a little bit just to say about some of the things that like our approach. So we kind of work on a consultation basis, and also on an approach to do really deep discovery, to really look at the business in detail to understand the real bottleneck. So we always try to come on site to actually understand what's going on, which I think is really important, rather than just rolling out a piece of software and then selling it as what we call a SaaS on a subscription basis. Really feel the value is in actually coming into the business and looking at what can be done and providing a bespoke service, and creating those long-term partnerships. So we're like a partner for the long term, to make sure that we're always optimizing with a big ROI focus as well, rather than just implementing stuff for the sake of it. Actually looking at where are the bottlenecks, where's this going to add the most amount of value, and where does it actually make sense to implement this. And like as Hayden pointed out, like we've got connections in San Francisco as well, so always keeping up on top of the technology. So with that said, I just wanted to open it up really. If you have any questions about AI or AI and business, or you think the robots are going to be taking over the world, feel free to quiz me on anything you want to know.
Curious, I mean, obviously, we've seen a work in process.
Yeah.
And I know,
Yeah.
With what we're planning on implementing is quite cool.
Yeah.
But where do you see that going long term? In a year's time, what do you think is sort of possible?
It's a really interesting question. I think that increasingly we're going to see more businesses are just going to be trying to take back a lot of these internal bottlenecks to try to be able to do more. So I think we're going to see a smaller number of players who are able to just capture bigger pieces of the market because they're leaner, able to do more deals, and I think that's going to accelerate over the next year. The integrations with tools are getting easier and easier. And we're getting new model upgrades all the time as well. Obviously, there's a big battle going on between Google and OpenAI. So as soon as one person puts out a model that can do some really, really cool stuff, then another model will come along and put out something because it just as innovative within such a short amount of time. So yeah, and long term, I think robots as well. I think it sounds crazy, but I think the events automation that we've done with the events management company, I think it's not going to be long before they're starting to think about are we going to get robots being the waiters or doing very basic tasks, and how we'd maybe implement that for some of them in 3 or 4 years time. So yeah.
Some underwriters arguably are robots.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, I know you guys deal mainly on the commercial side, but how would you see this? Is this sort of model that you're looking at really to get it to the stage where you're filtering it, and then you still have a person at the end checking over everything before you sign off on it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think to Harry's point, I think it's about automating as much as we possibly can to free up time for customer contact. Actually, because although it's just a fairly simple example, but it can be quite complex. Actually, we'll still get it right. So you can send over a pretty complex deal. We'll do most of the analysis for you. You've got a robotic underwriter doing a quick 5-minute check. Not much detail. That frees up so much capacity to actually have an in-depth conversation with the borrower. Because I think people do like that face, that connection. I would say. Yeah.
My nirvana and something like this is writing or dictating a credit paper. So you go through the whole ins and outs of the deals, company structure, videos, security, what we're looking to achieve, and dictate it. And then AI will formulate that into a nice credit paper, let's say. And then if that can populate onto our whatever systems we use, CRM systems, then onto any sort of application forms, etc. That would free up hours.
Really.
Oh yeah.
So that was where the brokers and investors likewise, because you don't put it around putting in data, copy and paste, etc.
You know what?
Yeah.
One, I was going to suggest, Harry, that reminds me a little bit about what you said about recording the call.
Yeah, exactly. So you can record a call, and obviously, as you know, you've all seen these call recorders with the transcript. But I think what a lot of people are missing is you can actually pass that into to populate whatever systems that you want once it's done the transcript or the summary, and it can detect things. So you can put the logic in there to do what you're to do what you're saying. So you could have a conversation with someone, literally as you described, and then it would turn that into the to the report with the right formatting, say a PDF document, and then that information could then also be used to populate your system. So, yeah.
I think it depends on, because we've got the companies, one of the companies that we have has some of those transcripts, but it's not always accurate.
Right.
So you're obviously limited by the accuracy of the raw data presented.
Yeah.
Who we use?
So some of them are a bit more accurate than others. It generally gets the sentiment and it gets the key details. But there are some things that you can do to actually mitigate that as well. Like you can also have another AI in the system to actually fact check it as well. So you can have the transcript and then you can have another one sort of jump in there and flag whether there are sentences that don't make sense or details that don't fit the logic of your company, and then a human could then jump in there and check it. So
technically, you could have a conversation with someone on the phone. Maybe a borrower calls in. This is kind of what we were planning. But we're speaking to a borrower direct. That call, this whole thing's being recorded. You're asking the questions. So what's the address of the property? What's this? What's the LTV? What's the current value? And then you're saying, well, then it creates it into a report, right? And it automatically then factors that into your CRM, like streamlines everything. So you basically do that whole process off a call.
Yeah.
We stop that fine rather than conversation, rather than what's your name?
Because I think what we were talking about, our vision is like, I think one of the bottlenecks is the amount of time it takes to do this inquiry process, like the amount of information you need to gather and the amount of calls and chasing that collectively the team needs to do. So one of the solutions that we're gonna implement and sort of refine is, Hayden can literally get on a call and ask all the relevant details. So we're not necessarily always, waiting for the solicitor, and then that can be passed through into a system, into even just a checklist to say, okay, from this call, I now know we've got all of this information and we've got it ready. These are the pieces of information that are missing, and these are the key documents that need to be got. So that, I think, adds a lot of value to that process.
So your system, your part to would all information be passed on to solicitors? Because what I'm finding is that sometimes the information are requested from a client several times. First from a broker, then from the lender, then from the solicitor, well, from the completions team, and then the solicitor. And the client said, well, I've already answered these questions. And then you as a broker saying, well, yeah, we've already delivered it. Now they're asking for it again.
So true. Yeah. Totally relate to that. Yeah.
And your system now, do you pass it all the way through? So that one, you don't ask for it. There's no repetition.
Exactly. I mean, like even when we first launched that 2-week product, we basically did that whole process. We went through line by line. We thought, why is the solicitor? If we're not going to ask that because the solicitor asked it, it's pointless. So we want to take that even further by actually the borrower doesn't get any questions asked, ideally, by anyone other than a member of the team at Flex. They have a phone call with them, asking the general questions, all of the inquiries, the legal inquiries, all of this stuff. In an ideal world, you do that. And then, yes, you're right, that conversation would then fill out this form, pre-populate everyone, give everyone the info, give the solicitors the info, give even the broker the info if they don't have it. So then they're not having to be asked over and over again and filling forms. They just have this one phone call.
So I think, sorry to jump in there, that was kind of going to be my next question, because I don't know all you guys in the room, but so I'm an insurance broker, and we're subject to the FCA. Commercials sometimes doesn't have to be factored into that. And that was one of the things I was just going to ask about in terms of being FCA compliant, because, for example, it's very frustrating for us as well. As an example, you speak to a client, say, initially send over your existing policy, which is going to renew, send me your reinstatement value or the declared values, let me take a look at it. And then you start having to go through the compliance every single time and say, can I just check this? Can I check that? So I can't get out of that. Otherwise, I'm going to be dragged over hot coals in that sort of situation, even when I have the information. So it's just that fine line of how can we make sure we're compliant with FCA and how we do that, because we're always going to have to pick up a call, go through it direct, and get the client to confirm because it's on our head. And I think something similar with the SRA or the solicitors as well, something similar-ish might be happening there. And so I'd just be interested to understand that.
Could you run through that with like a specific example so I can understand it a bit better?
So as a classic example, say you've got a property you want to insure, you've sent me your portfolio and you say to me, here's the insurance policy, here's the statement of fact, demands and needs, and I'm currently with Marsh. I'm not happy with the service. And I go, great, thanks for sending that across. I then have, so we actually use a lot of insurance brokerages use a CRM called Actress. And the way that works is you have to get on the phone, you then run through the typical statement of this may be recorded, we may be using your information to go to the market. So if you're happy, are you happy with that? You physically on the phone have to say, yes, I consent to it, and then we can proceed to ask you the questions. And if I don't do them and I just rely on what I've been provided by somebody else, then it will be on my head or on my PI. And that was just something, it's a tricky situation to try and cover that off because we physically have to get on the phone and run through these questions every time.
But then I think part of this is about like a systemic change. It's about coaching your incoming clients to say, don't send me stuff in this way. Just have that call. So it cuts it out. So you go straight to it. You know, they just know to call you.
Sorry, you mean as in don't send me the documents?
Yeah, like if they're then going over the same ground, so they're sending you all the information first, and then you have to go through the call and go. Is that's the duplication part, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. But I think sometimes as well. So, for example, what is more often than not, I appreciate it's a bit different. But for example, T's and C's are endorsements because a lot of principals don't look at insurance. You know, it's passed down the chain, and then I immediately say, right, well, can we just clarify your endorsements on the first stage? So we've done all the data capture and just run through it, and then they're going, well, actually, no, we're not compliant, and then we've recorded the whole.
I think in terms of KYC, so in this occasion, as brokers, we collate certified documents provided to vendors. This is often request the same information. I'm sort of more talking about cases and certain things that I don't think have to be asked again. KYC, yeah, solicitors have to sense check because it's on them. But I think the nuances of deal and things like that, if it's been agreed, broker pays it to lenders agreed it, then surely solicitors can just crack on and mitigate the rest of it. But sometimes they repeat and they go through certain things. I think this is where flex comes in. Is that that's the streamlined process. Is the questions asked at the front. And the solicitors don't ask questions at the back end. So in terms of the FCA regulations, the SEI regulations, in terms of KYC, I think they have to do the checks and comply to that. In terms of the actual structure of the deal, they need to do that.
I'd be curious to see, like, maybe if you'd like to sit down with Harry or whatever, go through that on the insurance side, because it's probably different, isn't it? It's like pretty highly regulated.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, we're finding. So I'm a solicitor, practiced for sort of 15 years, no longer doing it, although I guess flex is it's a large part of my day job, albeit not in Pepsi and that. And what we're finding when we're onboarding a law firm, we're getting a lot of resistance. It's like, that's not how you do it, that's not the normal way. It's like, okay, right, that's fine, but tell me what's not procedurally right about it, or tell me what's, are we breaching rules around here, SRA rules? Like, no, but it's just not the way it's done.
It's archaic.
Yeah.
It's archaic. And this is the whole, this one here, right? But we're trying to evolve the process.
Yeah, and I think AI is, like, part of it is about knowing what the process is and then using those AI tools to take away as much of it as you possibly can to the point where you're still staying compliant. So, for instance, okay, there's all these extra duplicate steps. Okay, let's keep them in, but let's also get a first draft done with AI, and then everybody's still responsible for what goes out, but it's the time spent that internally that has been reduced that has that knock-on effect that can reduce the system. So staying within those rules, I think obviously we have to, but how do we think creatively about it? And I think these sort of suite of tools are like a godsend for helping for being able to do that. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
AI can really achieve in the past,
Yeah.
we come up with experience is key. With AI these days, experience can be mitigated because AI will operate everything we need. So we miss anything, no, AI should be able to capture it. So we should be able to cover everything in one arm and not miss and not fail upon any sort of regulatory requirements.
I guess one of the regulatory requirements I completely sympathise with you on your side, and I'm not sure if you do regulated business on your side, but with an AI model, there's a risk of data breach. Not necessarily a breach of somebody's system data.
Yeah.
If you are feeding all of this information from the front end, you're doing a 5 or 6 page fact finding with the client. That's an entire client profile. When that's being transferred between AI bots and WhatsApp and things like that, who essentially owns that data? Because that's where the FCA will come in and say, well, you've just fed this data subject's information to a large language model that's going to go and speak to 100,000 people.
So that's a really good question, and I can actually answer that. So the solution to that is we have. I'm going to get a bit technical here. We have closed source models and we have open source models. So when you have a closed source model like ChatGPT or Claude, it's exactly as you say. You're passing your data in. You're potentially exposing it to a company because it's passing through an API. What you can do is you can run a model where you own the model. This is open source, so you've essentially, like a piece of software, you've cloned it, and you run it on a data center that you own, that the company would have control over. You would have compliance. So OpenAI have a special model called OSS, which you would run. So in large organizations, in enterprises, and heavily regulated industries, compliance is obviously really important. And so there are solutions out there for that. It's not just a case of passing it into ChatGPT. Yeah.
Never pass clients information through ChatGPT.
Yeah.
This is a closed model, so
Yeah.
they just pre-populate internal documents.
Yeah.
On what you said earlier, because back, like, if for example in the scenario where we had the lender solicitors in the same room, have the borrower solicitor in the same room, you have the borrower with a laptop, and you have all the information there. In my opinion, within half an hour, you probably get the whole thing done. That's why. Might be some legal work. That's why solicitors don't want it, because they can't bill for like 50 hours. If you have AI that does that process, then but sure, it could be done literally in let's say maximum an hour if all the documents are there, and
that's where we want to build.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
but then we resistance obviously because to be honest,
So I mean, so far we've used kind of Cook double firm, and they were a little bit sceptical to start with. We came in with a very, low fee, but we said, look, you're literally going to have to just sign things off. We're going to do everything. We're even going to produce a report and title for you. All you're going to have to do is just check it and then issue it in your name and then move money. And we're even doing the completion statements for it. It's literally coming in and you're just sending it out. We're doing the post completion, everything in house. And then again, it's the skepticism. And but they've started to see, well, actually, this is pretty good. So I think it works both ways. I think we're seeing resistance. So I had a few calls this week, and I had like one more in particular, just like, I'm not sure if this is how no lenders operate like this. I'm not sure if this works. And I'm like, I can assure you it does, but you just got to try it. And I just feel that it will take time, but as more lawyers work with it, and what we're going to certainly do is try and get like a panel of friendly borrower firms, and that's where you guys can really help as well. and this is something we'll drive, is kind of, I think what really slows down a deal is when you have like an old school lawyer who's out in the middle of nowhere, in Shires, who just goes home at 4 p.m. and everything's sent by carrier pigeons or something, it's just like, and you just, I mean, ideally we would use firms that do stuff remotely. Unfortunately, with our funding line, we still have to have them go in physically and do it. But it doesn't mean we can't have like partner firms around the country, and then we can give you that shortlist, and you guys can then just say that I know you've got your lawyer, but these guys get it done within the 2 weeks, because that's the key. That's where it can break down. But then we will get them on side, and we'll say, look, you're basically doing nothing. We're sat in the middle. We're having this call. We're doing everything, and then we're literally just going, here it is. Just get them to sign. Advise them on it. Done. Move the money, and we're in the middle. So I think it will take time, but I think first of all it involves working with the sort of more open-minded lawyers, because we're still making it worth their while.
Is it not more profitable for them to do that?
It is.
And
good
market
lawyers
it
are
that
seen.
way.
Good lawyers are seen it.
Yeah.
Working out the ILA for 350 quid as well.
So I'll be open. At the moment we're agreeing 1,000 plus that. We've done a cook. All they're doing is an hour or two just reviewing the report and title, and maybe an hour reviewing funds. That's very good. Very good.
Is it not also the risk profile things? If you're doing all the work and they're sense checking it rather than doing it themselves, the risk profile then on their PI potentially is where the cost.
That's exactly why I push back. Yeah, because we say, can't you do it for 500 quid? You're spending an hour on this.
Yeah.
No, we have to check it.
Yeah.
It's like saying, you might have everything ready to go, and you'll do it at a 100 million quid deal, and you're saying do it for $2,000. They're not going to do it because of the risk profile of what their cap is.
But then it would be factored in, because you'll see as well, we don't charge £1,000 a legal fee. Right? We have to make some money on that. We've got a team that's very time intensive, so that's how we're able to do it. But you'll also see we have a bit of a scale that we're putting in now, where if a deal is higher value, we're building that in. And it's interesting. Gunnar Cook haven't pushed back on it yet, but a new firm we're going to work with in the new year, they said, I think maybe deals over $1 million, we might have to think about a slightly higher fee because of that very point. That's okay. We have more to go around because we're already charging a slightly higher fee. And it's so interesting. I don't know if you find this, but if we put in a 250 quid admin fee, sometimes a borrower kicks off. You double the legal fee, they're like, oh, it's just lawyers. I don't know if you see that. So it's funny, the way you package it up is interesting. So I think, again, back to just working with forward-thinking lawyers, I really do think that it will, in our own little corner, it will start to get around, word will spread, and why wouldn't you want to be part of this? Anyway.
If you circle back to model that
Sure. Yeah.
AI, I'm a little bit skeptical if anybody will ever get to the point where there is one user interface that can understand a deal, like not a whole deal. I'm probably not explaining that the right way, but there is always a nuance or a complexity with the deal. For example, you may have a UBO, like there's no CRM system that will say who's the UBO, for example. Are we ever going to get to a point where the data capture is sufficient enough for an AI model to say, actually, I can spit out whatever the scenario is on the back end?
Yeah, so I think you're asking in some ways like a technical question. Like some people in Silicon Valley are asking this question, which is essentially about the generalization of like the model. Like if we give it all this data, will it ever be able to do absolutely everything? And Ilya Sutskever, who is one of the co-founders of OpenAI, essentially bet that no, we won't be able to do that. From a business point of view, it's really just a case of like, this is why I think being a partner, a tech partner, a consultant for a business is really important, in that you're not trying to build a one-size-fits-all piece of software that people subscribe to. you're going into the business, you're looking at the exact use cases that they're doing, and then you're building bespoke pieces of software, collecting bespoke pieces of data. So I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where you just this idea of a kind of a sentient robot that you can just ask anything of it, and I don't think that's fundamentally what the technology is. Yeah.
So then wouldn't it make sense for a model then to sit behind a CRM, for example? Like if I send you a deal, for example, right? You probably have, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them in terms of pitch decks. They're relatively similar in terms of I'll give you a brief synopsis, I'll give you the borrowers, I'll give you the borrowing profile and exactly what we want. If you then take that, is that something that you could build into the back of the CRM, for example? So again, we're spending 20 minutes, half an hour on the phone building rapport with this client. Is that model then able to sort of extract that data and say, okay, here, Michael, here's your pitch deck, and you can send this to Flex, you can send it to whoever, and again,
so you'd have like general knowledge of, so there would be, it would detect almost in like a decision tree, okay, this deal would be good for Flex because we know all this logic about Flex, or we know all this information about you, and then it would make this kind of matchup. But you would build that into whatever we would sort of build for you. You could build it in a way that it builds for it understands who you're reaching out to. So it would have some logic about Flex, have some logic about other brokers that you're dealing with, and equally like this is where we get to like the synergy. Like Hayden and Dan's systems might have some logic in them about stuff that you send them as we get further down the line, because they understand and it knows, okay, we've seen 10 deals from you now, so we know that they're probably going to look like this and you're going to respond in this way, so package it up like this.
One thing that I know we've touched on about accuracy, I think that is quite a key concern for me, because there are so many times you see it, even if you're using like an open source or something, and then it spits out information, and you go back and you check, and you're like, well, I did tell you the right information, and it's not interpreting it in the correct way.
Right.
And even if I was thinking about how it can work in the insurance world. So, for example, you can make it more simplistic. So, for example, we have like a demands and needs statement that you have to give on a separate sheet. Then that manually is processed into the CRM. And whilst it's frustrating, I'm now thinking about if you were to use an AI system to implement that into the CRM, because up to a certain level in terms of gross written premium for insurance, it just does it on like an E line. So it's almost like an aggregator sort of vibe, and then it gets referred. So if we're implementing it into the system wrong from the data capture, that's on our head. And I just want to understand how accurate, if we're truly just relying on that, is it? Because then we're going to have to be cross-referencing back to our original inputs day one, and then
that's a really good question. So there are on accuracy more broadly, I think there are two things that I would say. First of all is systems that I'm building for you guys, and in general what we recommend is like human in the loop, it's called. So what we're trying to do is like reduce the burden of the first draft, the overall burden of, say, writing a first draft, the overall burden of certain sort of repetitive tasks, but they are still ultimately checked over. So in a situation where like you've got a legal document that's drafted, you would never ever want to send a legal document that's been drafted by an AI. I mean, I saw a story yesterday about some court case, and the judgment had been written by AI, and then they had to come out and admit it, and they had to revise it, I think. So yeah, you never want to be in that situation. So understanding what it can do and what it can't do is very important, and understanding where it needs to be checked. The second thing is, I think more broadly, what you're talking about is called hallucination, which is where things are made up, things are not accurate. There has been a lot of development in reducing that, and there are a lot of things that you can do to reduce that. So those two things together. So to give you an example, what you can do is you can have two separate AI systems, and one that is checking all of the information. You can have one that is going back and checking all the sources, and it cites those sources. So then when somebody checks the document, that you can check each fact against the source and go back and read that source very quickly. and you can and things have been done at the model level and at the training level to actually try to reduce what we call hallucination. So if you look back to 2 years ago when these first came out, the models were sort of really bad, but slowly they've become more and more accurate, and that's only increasing every day. So I do think that it is about the use case that you're using it for and being very smart, not just saying, oh, we're just going to let it loose on everything in the business, particularly when you've got compliance issues.
I think there's also a limit to what AI can do. So, for example, if you have a case of like Sarah comes in, she's got development of 2 houses, all the figures are great, but her NAL is rubbish, she's got nothing in her name, development contract experience, no, so therefore, the deal's dead. But a partner owns a contracting firm and he builds houses all the time, he's got a big portfolio, he's into his PG, all of a sudden, deal's completely different. It's, it's all seems, go ahead. So I think there is always that limit that you need to just be aware of. And that's where we make our money, I guess.
Yeah, great.
Start with that, not with that.
Yeah.
I think it's like using AI to free up time. So
Yeah.
do that.
So you're speaking more to the guy against
What I would just say to end is I see 2 narratives kind of going in in people's minds, and that's one that like this is an overhyped technology, it doesn't live up to expectations, and it can't do anything, and we should just completely ignore it and forget about it and give up with it. And then this other narrative that it's going to take everybody's jobs and we can just go to the beach with coconuts and forget about everything. Both those narratives, I think, are wrong. And I think that it has a real value use case. It's just about understanding the technology and understanding where to apply it, where not to apply it, and where to mitigate it. Like Hayden says, I think with Flex, it really makes sense because we're just trying to streamline a lot of the repetitive processes or the document creation, but also understanding, where we can't use this and where there might be some pitfalls with it. I know that there are advances all the time. There's a payment protocol, for instance, I think that's just been released that's slowly progressing to enable people to be able to obviously make purchases with AI, but obviously giving your credit card to an AI is a risky business somewhat at the moment. So certain things have had to be built into it to try to make sure that it doesn't just go off and spend £1,000 on something. Just exactly.
I think that's a really important point you made that might be a bit underrated about the accuracy, because that was one of the first things I spoke to you about. And the fact that you can get a separate AI model to double check it, the accuracy goes through the roof. I mean, we've all seen how bad some of the models can be, but all of those basic mistakes pretty much wiped out, and you're left with, well, I wouldn't want to quote percentages, but I mean, almost as, pretty much like a human rate of mistakes, which obviously for a competent person should be quite low, I would say.
I mean, that's one thing. Also, some other things that you can do is that this technology, language models, they tend to break down sort of the more you give it in the context window, because they're always looking at all the different relationships between all the different tokens. So the more you give it, the more complex it becomes. So what you can do to mitigate that, if you've got a particularly long document, is you can say, right, okay, you're the AI that's going to write the introduction. You're the one that's going to write the middle of the document. You're the one that's going to write the summary. And then you put them all together at the end. You have a sort of a system that puts them all together and passes them in a PDF. And you have one that checks it. So there's really no limit on the amount that you could string together.
So you say use one AI to check another
Yeah.
AI. You say like use DeepSeek to check ChatGPT or Grok to check or Claude or something.
Yeah, you could do, or you can use different instances. So with these models, when you deploy them at a software level, you can have one instance of GPT and another one, and they're entirely separate. They're not talking to each other. They're kind of running again almost in like they're in a new chat window. Yeah. They're two different, like almost like 2 different iterations. Imagine you open ChatGPT and you start chatting with it, and then you open a new window with ChatGPT and it's forgotten everything else that you've said. So you can do it like that, or you can have ChatGPT and speak to Gemini. Gemini, as you said, speak to DeepSeek if you want. So you could do all kinds of things with it. It's not just about Gemini's got to ChatGPT. ChatGPT can check itself, because you can have two separate versions of it that don't speak to each other.
So,
Yeah.
Sorry to.
Please, no, yeah.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I guess the way we look at it,
Yeah.
probably because of the way computers have been introduced to
Yeah.
us to begin with, is there's right or wrong and
Right.
there's human error. And I think one key thing that you just touched on is quite an interesting point, like it's learning all the time. So it's basically like saying, if you've got a complex contract, you're not going to give that to paralegal to write and talk to the client. You've got to train them on that side,
Right.
and they might be doing the lower work, and then it goes up the chain to the specialist partner of that firm who deals with the finance side, and then who's a specialist in, I don't know, litigation for insolvency or something like that, and then everybody's over checking in its lane, and the ones at the beginning are learning as they get better. That
Right, yeah,
saying,
yeah.
Whereas we just think computers black and white, human error, yes or no.
Yeah.
Mindset of AI's learning.
Well, absolutely. In fact, AI is kind of a misleading term when people talk about it. I think it gives it gives a wrong projection of what it is, because you're saying that it's this artificial robot that's going to do things. In fact, it's called deep learning. Really, that's what the technology is for a reason. That it learns and it gets progressively better. So the more information you give it, and the more examples you give it, it sort of learns on the job and learns how to sort of orchestrate with each other. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Someone's got 40 years of experience, hopefully have less errors.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.